house, or what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Oh, wait, help, I lost.
What?
I lost you.
I'm still, oh, you're still here as far as I can see you.
Oh, shoot. I may have to start over. I was trying to turn the sound up.
Oh.
you did. I can hear you.
Yeah, but you've disappeared.
Okay.
Oh crap! I think I'm gonna start over. So I'm not leaving. I'm coming back.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, here we are. Came back.
The mysteries of computer land. Yeah, that noise we were having on the thing, Trish decided it was because she had a computer in their living room, and that was creating some noise. But now in this room, it doesn't do that. So,
It
you know,
used to work in the living room with no noise, and then it started making noise. And I don't know whether it's the connection cable or the old computer. Whatever.
well, yeah. Yeah, things are getting pretty warm up there on Cap. The president came to the Hill tonight, so things must be a little crazy up there with security and stuff, and trying to get something done about these immigrants. So, be interesting.
I'd rather think about Ramakant myself.
Yeah, the world is getting crazier and crazier.
And see, again, I don't watch the news or TV or anything like that, so I have no idea what's going on in the
Well,
world.
what I find is when I get into it, it really drags me into, it drags me into the gutter lately. It's not good for me.
Yeah, I mean, when you allow the attention, like we talked about before, the attention runs away. It's hard to bring it back to you. You let the attention just run away and do whatever it likes, and that's not good.
Yeah. Plus, there's a lot of uncomfortable for me. I get really, really, there's a lot of anger that comes up, when I listen to, who, and it really, really, more than ever, it seems to really bother me. So I'm like, why do I get myself so worked up about this stuff? I got to step back because it's very, very disturbing. I find it very disturbing to listen even to listening to lies, essentially.
But see, again, you're speaking to me, and other than knowing that who's the president, that's all I know about the world. I know who the president is. I have no idea what is going on. I work at Capitol Hill, and I'm still totally, completely untouched by any of that. I just, it's especially, I mean, and we were doing this the other night. I was in a meditation meeting, and I said simply, like, okay, close your eyes, and now you're still seeing with your eyes closed. So right away, you know that you can see without these physical eyes. So then the body and everything involved with it can't be you, because you still are, even though you're not using the body's eyes to see, you still are there. You can see. You see, if you sit long enough, you'll start to see thoughts and images and stuff appear with your eyes closed. So there's a seer that's seeing these images. Now, if you remain long enough, you'll see that there's a gap in between these images and thoughts. So that means you can't be mind, because when the mind is not, when you're seeing that there's a gap, you still are. So, okay, so all of that goes away. So I'm not body and I'm not mind. Instantaneously, I know this. So then I can then see that there's a void, so to speak, because there's nothing there, and yet I'm seeing that nothing. Okay, so that means I'm prior to the void because I'm witnessing the void. And my eyes are closed, so I'm not using physical body. So the selfless self is witnessing the void, so to speak. You're still there. After all the experiences, after everything ends, there you are. And still with the eyes closed and nothing appearing, you still are. So you don't get lost when there's a gap between thoughts. Otherwise, you'd be the mind. Because if the thoughts were kept going and you were involved in mind and you were the mind, when that stopped, you'd cease. But you don't cease. So when there's no thought, you still are. So here's a void, so to speak, with nothing. Like Maharaj says, the nothingness, and yet you still are.
Yeah.
And yeah, then that's the sense of presence that's arising in the existence without anything. So now talk to me about what's going on in the world news-wise. But see, I'm with the seer. And the physical eyes, they're gone. So everything that the physical eyes can see obviously is not myself or has anything to do with it, nor does it maintain me. So I'm here and I'm seeing, and that's it. And then if you really want to get deep, open your eyes, but remain from that seeing space and know that even though there is the appearance of something, there's still you prior to the void of nothingness.
And you also see in dreams as well, without the eyes, you know, you're seeing images, but those are images that arise in the mind.
But you're witnessing those.
Yeah.
And you're witnessing a body in this dream world that you're pretending to be using, and that's on the screen of mind that you're witnessing. Even you're able to witness the form that you're believing yourself to be in when you know you're the formlessness that is the dream that's appearing from your own self. But if you close your eyes, it's the same thing. You close your eyes, you see thoughts, you see images maybe for a little bit of time, but there may be a gap. You know, as you get deeper into seeing the seer and not what's seen, there's a gap, yet you still are. So you can't be in the flow of thoughts because otherwise you would disappear. When the thoughts disappeared, bang, you'd be gone. But you wouldn't be able to witness the gone because you'd be gone with the gone. You know?
Yeah.
So you remain there. And then, like I said, you open your eyes, but remain inwardly. And we talked about this before. You're seeing all this outside stuff, but you remain with the seer. You remain inwardly with your selfless self without allowing attention to go out. And then whatever's occurring in the illusory world, it just doesn't touch you because you're so far removed from it. This is something that's occurring to the mind that I'm not, to the body that I'm not, in the world that is not. So what? And it's interesting too because, and I was just telling this to some of the folks in the meditation thing, when you're walking down the hallway, you just remain seeing, see the seer that's seeing and forget about the seen. Remain, just remain, remain, remain. And there's something very beautiful about that because that's what Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about. Remain with the I am, remain with the seer, remain with the sense of presence, remain with your selfless self. All the different labels are just for that source of seeing that you are, that when you try to locate that source of seeing, you disappear. All things on the screen disappear.
It can't be, they both can't be there at the same time because you can only have one object of attention at a time.
When your attention is all inside, objects are still out here, but there's no labeling and there's no interest and there's no involvement because you're involved with your own selfless self. You're inwardly seeing.
Right.
So things that are going on outside is quite nice, okay, and even try the next time that something's happening. And again, with mantra, it's even more powerful because now you're remaining with the seer and listen to the one that's listening to the mantra running automatically. But that little exercise, you know, and we were talking about it in the that's it. Boom, you're realized. That's it, because you're paying attention to the realized state. And you're no longer paying attention to the things that come and go that are not you and that don't matter at all in the grand scheme of your own self.
Yeah.
So when you remain there, that's it. You're realized. Good, good.
And then what you put your attention on grows, so that
That is correct.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're growing, it's just that you're not paying attention to anything else. You're solely focused on that you are, and because you are everywhere in all things, instantaneously, so that I. And then you just, that's realization, boom. Like Maharaj says, you already realized you're not paying attention to the realized state. Well, now you are. You pay attention to the realized state. Let things come and go as they are, because you're inwardly with your own self. You're trying to see this source of seeing, and in doing so, you lose the illusory coverings of that source of seeing, because that source of seeing is where you're seeing from, and all the things that are covering it are no more.
Yeah, the amazing thing about that is it doesn't prevent you from living your life, from
Absolutely not.
doing
Live from
your job, taking care of your child or whatever.
Absolutely not. You just live from that source of seeing, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's like, and you, the selfless self, will enjoy this attention on your own self and forget about all that's going and coming, and then that's it. You just remain there, and then you don't have to worry about whether there's thoughts or no thoughts, because it won't even. You're remaining with yourself, and yourself, as you've already seen from this little exercise, even, is the observer or the witness of the void. And you are the source of that witnessing of the void. So, when people say in spirituality, well, I got to a certain place, there was nothing, so I turned around, mentally, because I was like, whoa, that's too scary. But if you can see that there's nothing, then you're prior to the nothing. So what's to be scared about?
Yeah.
If you were the nothing, if that was where you stopped, if that's where you ended, then you wouldn't be able to see the nothing, because that would be yourself. That would be the stopping point. But it's not the stopping point, because you can witness that. So.
And then isn't that also where you kind of turn over whatever problems come up, you turn them over to the self, because there's no you to be doing anything about the so-called problems.
But see, if you remain with that, with yourself, inwardly with yourself, again, think of the exercise. The eyes are closed. So what problems are there? Only problems are images on this mind, this screen of mind. And yet, when those problems or those images are not, you still are. Okay, so you're not body, you're not mind, so forget all that kind of stuff. You remain with you. And every situation is from the point of your selfless self. You remain with your selfless self. Be with you always, regardless of what's going on around you. And this is what Maharaj is talking about. And when you see in this way, it's like there's no more concepts, no more spirituality, no more nothing. Like I was talking with the people at this meditation class, I said, remaining without labeling. Don't try to say, oh, is this God, or is this my higher power, or is this presence that I'm feeling? Forget about all that. Just remain. After you've seen that you can see when there's nothing there, you still are. Find the source of this you that you are seeing from, and then that's it. You remain there. When the eyes are, you're closing your eyes, you can see, then you open your eyes, and even now, okay, you can see, I can see myself on this screen, and Maharaj, and the people, and all this, but I'm seeing that, but I'm remaining with the seer. I'm not seeing, I'm seeing, but without identification, without labeling, and without desire, or none of those things even occur anymore, because I just remain here.
No.
That's it. And then, like Maharaj says, you're already realized. You're not paying attention to the realized state. Now you're paying attention to the realized state. And when someone comes and says, well, are you doing sadhana or whatever? Oh, shoo.
No.
Master says, remain with my selfless self. And when and if I can't remain with my selfless self, that's when I use mantra. Master does not give instructions on how to do, and I heard Maharaj talking about this. This is very beautiful. He says, I don't give instructions on how to deal with your family problems, how to deal with not sleeping, how to be a better you. No, we're cutting all of that. Remain with your selfless self. And when you can't remain with your selfless self because something is appearing on the screen that you believe is important, mantra, and go back with your selfless self. Because the entire world is illusion, as Maharaj says. What needs to be done is done. What needs and all this, they spontaneously occur in the moment. They actually do that anyway. It's just this mind stream that is believed in as this is happening to me that causes the belief in doership. But the reality is that's not true. And you will see this. It's kind of like the reward of selfless self when you're remaining and you're trusting and having complete faith in the master, not master in body form, but Maharaj that you are. When you're remaining and trusting, then the world is projected from your spontaneous presence, and according to the beliefs and ideas and concepts you're holding about yourself, that's projecting the experience that you believe yourself to be seeing. When you remain with yourself, you have complete trust, complete faith, and there you are.
Yeah.
We're realizing ourselves tonight, Keith. We've seen from the realized state, and that you're absolutely 100% realized. Now remain there, and don't allow anything to distract you from this realized state that you are in, that you are, that you can't really not be in. You can only imagine yourself not to be in.
Right, because you believe the only thing that separates you is the belief in separation.
Yeah, or the belief in oneness. Any of these beliefs are stirring in the silent, in the just you're the source. You're the source of everything. So remain at the source. Don't allow anything to flower from that source.
It's tricky though, because I can sort of feel the sense of freedom there, but I can feel like I'm right on the edge, like something's going to grab me and draw me back into it. You know?
Nope, not going to happen, because see, we already talked about, and you missed the little first part, but this was an exercise that we did where you close your eyes. You can do it right now. You close your eyes, and yet you're still able to see. Okay, so you can see without the physical eyes. So right away, you can throw the body away. So from this position, you can see, if you remain like this for a time, you'll start to witness a flow of thoughts. And the flow of thoughts can appear as thoughts, or they can appear as images or whatever on this screen that you're observing. Now, if you sit there a little while longer and you're observing this, there will be a gap. And as you pay attention to the gap, there will be a space between thoughts that has nothing. And yet you still are, because you can witness this nothing. So that means you're not the mind, and you have nothing to do with the mind, because you're prior to mind, since you can see without mind. And now you would see, and this looks like maybe a void, you could say, and a lot of, like we were talking about, you see the void and you're like, oof, I don't want to go there. But you're witnessing the void. So, okay, you just remain. Now, as you're seeing all of this, just keep going into the source of the seeing that's still seeing. And then you open your eyes and you see that it's the same. You remain inwardly seeing, and the outward is still there, but you're seeing from the source of seeing. You're seeing the source. You're remaining at the source. And that's it.
I get a sense of what you're saying.
And you are realized. And Maharaj will be happy. You'll see him in the USA visit. He's coming, and you just say, yes, I remain with my selfless self. Nothing distracts me from the reality.
But I always want to make up something out of nothing, and I want to believe that I'm not there or something, I guess.
Well, just stay with the source. And see, that's the beautiful thing. If you say, when you're closing your eyes and you're still seeing, you're going directly to the source of the seeing. When you open your eyes, you remain with the source of the seeing, even though there are scenes. And then you don't label that. You don't identify it. You don't put any concepts of this could be the presence of God or what's next or any of, and Ramana Maharshi says, no, you don't need to know what Ramana Maharshi says or anybody, because you are just remaining with that source from where all this seeing, from where this presence, from where all of this is arising. And forget about what's out here. Remain with your selfless self. As Maharaj says, you are already realized, but you're not paying attention to the realized state. Now you are. You're paying attention. With this simple exercise, in any given moment, anytime, you can see the source where you're seeing. This, of course, is your own selfless self. From that seeing, that's the source. And whenever the attention starts to go out, like you said, oh, I can imagine what this is, or I can imagine something, that's when mantra comes in. Because you're seeing from the source and seeing, like somebody said in this meditation class, they're like, oh, I like to concentrate on the breathing. But see, breathing brings body in, and we've already 3 times removed you from body. You know, we saw that when we close the eyes, we can still see without the physical eyes, so that throws the body right away. Then the subtle body, which is the mind flow and all of this, we can see it, witness it, and also witness when it is not. So therefore, you're prior to this mind. So we've thrown away body, we've thrown away mind. If we throw away body, we threw away all the 5 elements and all the world and all the everything, and we're just here, remaining with your selfless self. And when the attention tries to go out, mantra. That erases that. That's like you're seeing outside and maybe some dust gets on and do some mantra. Oh, okay, now it's clear again. That's it. And it doesn't matter what's in front of you because you know that the body's eyes are seeing what's in front and you're witnessing from way, way back here, the source from all this, where all this is arising. And remain there. And then that inner master, as Maharaj says, that begins. And the attention is invited, and you remain. You just remain with your selfless self. And you don't have to be a robot or a stone. You're walking and talking and all of this. And even when you're talking, you're remaining inwardly at the source of this seeing where all this is arising. And you're not trying to say this is illusion or this is this. No, no, no. Just remain there. And everything that appears on top of that, use mantra to erase. And any time that you see that you're trying to see from other than the source that you are, then go back to the source that you are. Even if you do this little exercise with mantra, boom, 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 up, I'm here. No need to worry about this.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier today that I was feeling sort of, I guess what I call free. But I was thinking about the conviction that I'm supposed to have. Like I couldn't really find any particular conviction about anything. Like there was no.
When you remain with the source of the seeing, then you don't need conviction because you're just remaining with yourself formlessly.
Yeah, so it's like it's not really a conviction in a sense of an assumption or something like that.
Conviction's not needed because in order to have conviction, mind, ego, intellect has to be involved, and somehow that's why Maharaj says spontaneous conviction. Spontaneous conviction is when you continue to go and you realize that you are ultimate truth. You are the source of seeing when your eyes are closed, when you can see mind, when you can see that there's the absence of mind, when you can see the void, and when you know that you're prior to the void because the void is arising on you. So you remain there. You remain at the source. All these words are just words, and all of the words that Maharaj uses are to point you back to this source. Everything you'll notice is negative, negative, negative. Why? Because these things have appeared on that source of seeing, and you're seeing them rather than remaining with your selfless self. You need to discard this, and that's why Maharaj says mantra, slowly, silently, and permanently. It erases the illusory layers that you're looking at rather than remaining with the source of seeing that you are. That when all things end, there you are. Be with you always, Maharaj says. This is be with you always. And you don't have to talk about presence, and you don't have to talk about, the gunas, and you don't have to talk about any of that because that's in the body world, which you've already seen that you can see without the use of body. So body is absolutely, you don't even have to say it's an instrument anymore because you just remain with the seer. You just remain at that source of seeing. And when you notice your attention is starting to go out, pull it back. Okay, back. Nope, not going to allow that. And you don't even have to say not going to allow it. You use mantra. And mantra will naturally bring you back to the source because mantra is easing and erasing all the things that you're trying to see that aren't you.
I've never experienced until maybe now that the mantra was actually doing something, like keeping me anywhere. I couldn't really tell that the mantra was. I think maybe I'm getting a sense of that now, but for me, usually I'd do the mantra as much as I could, and then sometimes I would just enter into what I say freedom, but I didn't know if it was connected. I couldn't tell if it was connected with the mantra or not.
Yeah, and again, see, because if you use mantra at the body level, which you now know absolutely you're not, then you're going to recede maybe to, like Siddharameshwar Maharaj says, the subtle body, which we've already seen are the mind and the images and all that, which we know were prior to. So when you're using mantra, so to speak, or listening to the mantra being run, you're listening to it from the source. It's inviting the attention of the invisible listener, and it invites the attention of the invisible listener back. You forgot your identity. You started to go out and play in this world with all these illusory things. Go back to your original self. Remain there. Mantra leads you back to yourself because it invites the attention of the invisible listener that you are. It invites the attention back, so to speak. Of course, there's no front and back because you're everywhere. But in this case, from this source of seeing, you are receding back to the source of seeing and inviting the attention of the invisible listener that you are. Meaning, your attention is invited to the invisible listener and is no longer going out to all the illusory things that are out there. And in this exercise, we can see. Close your eyes, yet you can still see. And it's not like, if the eyes were everything, when you close your eyes, you wouldn't be able to see the darkness. There'd be nothing. Like there wouldn't be. you couldn't, but you can see. So that eliminates body. That eliminates 5 elements. That eliminates ego, mind, intellect, all that. Shoop. Because, well, not mind. Because mind is eliminated next when you close your eyes and you start to see images appearing or thoughts appearing. And you start to see these images or these thoughts, and yet you're seeing them. So you're witnessing the flow of thoughts that you call mind. So that means you're prior to mind because you can witness it. Then when you see this mind disappear, so to speak, because there's nothing on this screen, it's a gap between 2 thoughts, but you still are. So that means you can witness whether the mind is there or not there. So you're prior to mind. So in those little moments of seeing, you've gotten rid of the body and all that comes along with it. You've gotten rid of the mind and all that comes along with it. And then you see that now that there's this gap and the gap grows, there's nothing. And yet you're witnessing that void. So there you are. Remain with your selfless self. Invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. That you are. Where all this ends, there you are. Inviting the attention of the invisible listener is bringing your attention back to the source of seeing, back to the source of your own selfless self in which the entire world is projected. And yet, you don't have to think about that. All you have to do is, once you've seen this seeing, remain. Just remain. Because when you open your eyes, you'll see, but you'll still pay the attention all to the seer. Where's this source of seeing and forgetting about this? And then it doesn't even become a mental thing because you're just remaining with the source of seeing where all this is arising from, but it can come and go because you don't come and go. And when your attention starts to go out again, mantra, because mantra invites the attention of the invisible listener, invites the attention back to the source from where the entire world is projected, that you are. Birth and death don't even make sense anymore because, and see, you don't have to label it. You don't have to put concepts. Even selfless self, you don't have to say. You just, this source of seeing that I am. That's it.
But if I put it in time?
Time doesn't exist because you're that source of seeing. How can there be time there? In order to have time, you'd have to have an object, and you can see that you've already eliminated all the objects, even the subtle objects, all the way back to your own selfless self, the source of all. So time doesn't even make sense.
But if I put a self on it, then I can't say I was always here.
A self, no. See, that's again, we just remaining with the source of seeing that you are. And by doing that, your own selfless self is going to project and show, based on your ideas and beliefs and thoughts you're holding about yourself, is how this world is projected through you. And this source of seeing, remain there. Don't think about anything else, because you've already seen that the mind is something that is witnessed, but when the mind's not, you still are. So who cares about mind? Who cares about body? You've already seen.
I happened to be watching this video today. It was about Zen. In fact, it was Alan Watts, and he said the Zen master asks you, what were you before you were born? And that's like the cone or something. And
yeah, when you remain with the source of seeing, when you remain with the source, then you remain as you were prior to being this.
as long as I don't make a concept out of it, I'm cool, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, you just remain with the source of seeing and forget about everything else. And begin, because just like when Nisargadatta and Ramakant Maharaj say, first thing in the morning, you have the sense of existence with nothing added on. Well, go to the source of that. Remain at the source. Don't allow all these things that come, just stay there. Invite the attention of the invisible listener with mantra. Remain at the source. And when you know, then, so you know that there's a seer there that's using the instrument of body to see all these things, yet you are when all these things are not. Because you close the eyes, if you couldn't see, you'd see nothing. So, again, then you see this mind, so the flow of thoughts with images and thoughts. You can sit there and kind of witness this, but you also can see when there's a gap. So there's a void. Well, you're the witness of the void. So you're prior to the void. So you're prior to everything. The entire world is appearing on your spontaneous presence, and you remain with your selfless self. Whenever there's a stirring, mantra. Mantra is inviting the attention of the invisible listener back to the source. You forgot your identity. You're the source of all things. Okay, oh yeah, that's right. Without saying, you don't need to say it. Because when you're walking, you're talking, you're seeing all the people. You don't have to worry about, oh, am I seeing myself or how am I interacting with myself? Because you're at the source. And when you're at the source, everything is effortless because it's occurring spontaneously without you having to even think about the word spontaneous. Because you remain with this seeing. You remain with the source of the seeing. You remain with the source from which the entire world is projected. And now you're realized. And now you're paying attention to the realized state. Rather than, like Maharaj says, you're already realized, but you're not paying attention to the realized state. Now you're realized and paying attention to the realized state. And anything that's added on, you just pay attention to the realized state. You're not paying attention to that. Birth and death are connected with the body, and you're so far removed from the body as you're seeing here. Just like, I believe it's in Master of Self-Realization that Siddhar Meshwar does a similar thing, like what we're saying right now about closing the eyes and doing all this. But he actually takes apart and says, okay, this body, this gross body, the physical body, and then the subtle body and all that. And we just did that exercise in like 2 minutes. And it can be done any time of day, anytime, with mantra, remaining at the source. Anytime things are getting, quote, hectic, it's because I'm out here somewhere and I need to remain with the source. invite the attention of the invisible listener that you are. The source from where everything is arising, and all the things that are arising on your spontaneous presence, they don't really, it's the illusion. And you know it's illusion because you remain with the source of the seeing.
When I just came on late today and heard you talking about this, if I wasn't receptive to it, I might not have been able to pick up on it, but for some reason I was today.
That's your selfless self. And see, that's why Maharaj says, read the reader, not what's being read on the page. It's the same thing. From this place of the source of seeing, you're reading the book Selfless Self, or you're reading the book I Am That. But you're reading the reader, not the words that are on the page. You're reading the reader, and it's the reader's story, because all of this is pointing back to the source, and the source that you are.
I don't think I'd gotten that before.
I'm sorry?
I don't think I'd heard that before, or at least it didn't sink in. It's so easy to get caught up in mainstream illusion that, you know, the way that everything is said and expressed and all that, you know, it's hard, you know, not to get caught up in it and start thinking the same way.
This is true. And that's why, just like Maharaj says, the directions, the map, and the map we just laid out, back, source of seeing, remain there. Now you're at the destination. There's no need for a map. And no need, you can still read all the spiritual books, but read it from the reader, like, you know, from the source of seeing. Now you're reading from the source of seeing. You're remaining with the source of seeing and recognizing your own self in this source of seeing. And all roads lead back to your own selfless self.
Yeah, and that's why you can read stuff, because you'd put the book down if it didn't resonate. So in a sense, that's a proof of that, because if it's written from the self, then the self recognizes it. Otherwise, you'd probably put it down because it would be irrelevant. It wouldn't make sense. Or, you know what I mean? If it's a spiritual book, there's something in there, it resonates. And that's why it's valuable, because it's like the self talking to the self.
Well, I mean, in reality, all things are. But again, now we're going out. Remaining with the source of the seeing, reading the reader. That's the key. Just remaining. All these books are just leading you back to your own selfless self. They're just maps, different maps. Now, some maps are very direct. Maharaj is, you know, blessings Sri Ramakant Maharaj, Jai Sadhguru, because that map is direct. There are some maps where they are leading and going this way and 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 this way, and then you're here. But see, then you've been all around here and your attention is so far out there that even when you're here, you're not really remaining here, because you're thinking about all the places that you've been other than here, or how the journey was. And Maharaj is just leading direct. And direct can't be any more direct than close your eyes, see this, see this, see this, remain as the seer that sees all this, that all this is appearing on the spontaneous presence, And without your presence, none of these things would be. And then that's it.
You know, what Kathleen said, I kind of had an experience of the same thing last night. I was talking about, there's a couple of friends that they're not really doing any particular practice, but I've gotten them, by talking about this stuff, they're somewhat receptive to it. And after talking to them about it over the past year or two, they have had their own flashes of the sense of what I've been trying to say to them. And I was telling my friend last night that, well, we were talking about it, and I said, well, you wouldn't even be listening to me talking about this, unless you had some sense of what I'm talking about. So that's sort of what Kathleen was just saying. And even though I don't have a totally clear sense of what I'm talking about, I kind of do, you know.
Hi, baby. Hello. Okay,
Oh, there's the enlightened kitty cat. Oh,
yes. Here's Kitty to remind you not to be a mouse.
oh, she's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's a pretty cat.
Yeah.
Does it have any orange on it?
Yes, she's calico.
Oh, yeah, because my girlfriend's cat has brown, white, orange, I guess similar.
Yeah, that's calico.
Yeah.
And her name's Callie, right?
Yeah.
There's a goddess named Callie, the goddess of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not spelled the same. She's not K-A-H-L. She's C-A-L-L-I-E.
See, and now too, when Maharaj talks about the fact that when you're forming a question, you have to separate from yourself, in the way that we're seeing now from the source of seeing, you can see that to form a question, your attention has to go out to the illusory world from which you're forming a question and asking something about the illusory world from a perspective of a someone, either a subtle body or a physical body. But when you're remaining at the source, no question can arise because you're just there. You're at the source of all things. And if a question does arise, then you're beginning to separate yourself from the source. So you just remain with your selfless self. Or, like Ramana Maharshi says, be still, remain in silence, remain at the source of your selfless self. And when a stirring occurs, remain with yourself. When a stirring occurs to ask a question, the attention goes out, and mind, ego, intellect is to form a question based on a position that you're speaking from. But if you remain at your source, at the source, then no question can arise. How? How can a question arise? What is there to ask a question about? And who is there to form a question? There's a formless questioner that has no questions.
That reminds me of a question that I had been meaning to ask over the past few weeks, and I just hadn't gotten around to it, is when you're talking about forming or making a somebody else, the question is, well, why do you refer to it as a somebody else rather than as a somebody? If you're forming a somebody, you could say it either way, but saying it to somebody else, I guess I sort of feel, you wouldn't have to say it that way. You could just say you're forming a somebody, but you are a somebody. I mean, whether you can't get away from being a somebody, I guess.
Well, no, the somebody is added on to you that you are not. And again, you can answer your own question just by remaining at the source. This question that you're asking about somebody else or somebody or whatever, you'd have to have, number one, a voice box to speak this question. You'd have to have a body that you could identify as a possible somebody or somebodies, but you don't, you've seen, we close our eyes, we go back, we remain at the source. So there is no somebody, there's just the idea of separation. And the idea of separation is labeled, I am somebody else. But that idea we've seen is not true, so we don't even have to bother with that. We've cut it right at the root. We don't have to talk about somebody else because there's no idea of separation arising because I'm remaining at the source.
So whether you say it's a somebody or somebody else, it doesn't.
It's just a label for the same thing, and you're labeling something in. The idea is that when you say somebody or somebody else or form a question or ask or do anything, you are separating through the idea of separation. And when you have this idea of separation, then all these things come on you because your attention goes out instead of remaining with the source of all these things. When you remain with the source, then all of these illusory labels, like Maharaj says, Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God, Master, all these things, that you are, because accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master. You are the source of everything. Remain at that source. Don't allow the attention to go out to the things that are being projected on your spontaneous presence. Remain as you are. Be with you always, as Maharaj says. And that will answer all questions. Even if you're sitting in a group and people are chattering about all kinds of questions, and you can just sit and remain at the source, and all questions are answered automatically. Because you're remaining with your selfless self. You're not creating the idea of separation by allowing the attention to remove itself from yourself.
And normally when we think about source, or I normally think of source as being something separate from me.
No, but well, how? Because you are arising from the source of you, or from the source of seeing. And when you close your eyes, like, you know, just every time you want to say anything, you close your eyes, you go back, oh, okay, there's the source. Okay, remain with the source. The source and from what the entire world is projected. I just remain there. I remain with my selfless self. Selfless self is a label on this source that I am. The I am is a source. Is the source. All of this is your own selfless self. Your own self, that source. And see, the beautiful thing is no labels. Just keep the attention on the source of seeing. The seer without the seen. You can still see the seeing. Who cares? That's fine. But you're the source of the seeing. You're the seer. And not even the seer, because you're the source of this seer, from where all things are arising. And again, as soon as we say, when you remain at the source, when you remain with your selfless self, then the idea of separation cannot arise.
And even the word source, is just a word.
Exactly. I mean, you can't really, there's no words that describe the source of all things, because you have to see this, you have to find this, and it's good not to put words. That's where all the concepts come in, because you're going to look for words that you have understood using the body knowledge that is added on to you, the selfless self. You will need to do like this library, this encyclopedia of body knowledge, in order to try to label this source from where all of this is seen. You would have to go through this encyclopedia of body knowledge, which right away then you have to, as we just said, form the idea of separation with the concept of I am somebody else, and this is my knowledge that I have acquired. But remain at the source. If knowledge is needed, knowledge will appear, but no knowledge is knowledge, because you remain at the source of all knowledge, which doesn't need knowledge. It doesn't need anything, because it's the source of everything. And whenever there's confusion, you know, the exercise, close your eyes, boom, 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 go back. And if there's, when you know that, now you have your eyes open but you're remaining with that source, remaining with your selfless self. And when the seeing starts to go out and attention is drawn to other than yourself, you invite the attention of the invisible listener through mantra, which is just recede, recede, recede. And that's it. Birth and death don't even make sense, because when you remain with the source, you've already seen that you are not the body, nor were you the body, nor do you need this body. This mind is also, you are prior to it, because you can witness thoughts, but you can also witness this screen where there's no thoughts, this void that you are able to see. So you're prior to that. Stay as you were prior to beingness, prior to this idea that you exist. Because when you remain with the source, even the idea that you exist is not, because it's an idea that forms the concept of separation of an I am somebody else that's existing as something. Oh, looks like we have hit our 8 o'clock mark.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we just lost Manahar too.
Ah,
He was on there for a while, but then it just went blank. I guess he has a time deadline too. Anyway, but thank you. And yeah, that's pretty profound. Yeah, there's no something, is there?
just
Something.
So it's not profound.
remaining with that source, and that little exercise of remaining with your selfless self. And anytime the attention goes out, you invite the attention of the invisible listener, which is your own selfless self, not needing to go out. Then you can see the entire world from that place. And any thoughts that arise, they're not going to bother you or trouble you, because you're prior to all of that. You're prior to the mind, because you can see this, and you can see when the absence of mind, you still are. In the absence of everything, you still are. And remain there. All right.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take it easy.